Well, I guess the Nuggets are going to have to hand out another max contract for Davon Reed. This is Locked On Nuggets. Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and we are available on all platforms. Want to let you know that today's show does not have a title sponsor, so I don't have to worry about it, even though I thought that maybe I would. Today's title sponsor, today's show is brought to you by the letter D for Davon Reed. We'll get into that. We'll talk about Nikola Jokic's interesting game. We'll talk about the bench's highs and lows. We'll talk about Will Barton hitting a pretty big shot. We'll do lots of this and a win. It's Optimism Monday on Locked On Nuggets. My name is Matt Moore. I'm a senior NBA writer for the Action Network and the Nuggets insider for 104.3 The Fan in Denver. He is Adam Mares. He is director of content for DMVR, thedmvr.com. You can follow his work at Adam_Mares. So let's get started because the Denver Nuggets get themselves a win, 103-100 over the Los Angeles Clippers in LA. Always important for the Nuggets to beat the Clippers, even though the Clippers were without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and Marcus Morris, and the Nuggets were without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. and PJ Dozier. And it's a mess right now. The NBA is a mess.
Did you see? I like my idea, Matt. I think we need to start keeping track of the best team that you could make from players not participating in any matchup. I think tonight's game is the winner. Kawhi, Paul George, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Reggie Jackson, Michael Porter Jr., Hartenstein, Dozier. I think that's the best team of players that are out.
Yeah, that's a 53-win team. So
it might be more than that, to be honest with. Like Paul, I think that's actually like a 60-win team. The other night, you did have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis. So that was a pretty good team, but I don't know if they have quite the depth of this other one. But nonetheless, I think it's just something we should be tracking.
I agree. So the Nuggets get the win. I'll just say this. I tweeted this after the game, and I really do believe it. And like, look, you had been saying for a couple weeks, you're just like, this is like how the season's going to be remembered. And that's like where people are at, like all the time. Like right now, everyone's just like someone was like, this deserves more of an asterisk, blah, 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 blah. And I will just say, like, I thought that the first month of the season was pretty clean and good. And it was like well-played basketball and like really good. Like the first month and a half, really until we got to December. And then December hit and the COVID and then just Omicron wrecked us, right? I do think that there's a possibility that we'll get to March and be like, oh, this is fun again, right? Because we'll have like the play-in tournament, and that makes for pretty competitive stuff. And like April, but I do think that like December and January is going to be rough. I think the season's going to be a lot of different things all at once. And
I'll say this: I think it's expectations, Matt. Because part of what's so tough about right now is we felt like we were on the downside of all of this, and I think that's part of it. Is it's like we're not. So you're right. I do think this season will get more fun, not just speaking Nuggets, but across the league. It'll feel more real or what have you, all of those things. But right now we're in the like bargaining stage, I guess. I don't know. What stage are we in? We're not at acceptance yet.
I just think we're rationalizing. There's a big chill quote about rationalization. You should Google. So what I was trying to get to was I was saying this, I tweeted this after the game. There are no good or bad wins. I'm somebody that believes very firmly in the idea that in an 82 game season, you're going to have good wins and bad wins and good losses and bad losses. Like you can have a really good loss in an 82 game season, even if you're like a good team. It's not like the NFL. I agree with this concept of just like, no, like you win whatever. Like there's 16 games you get or 17, right. Like you just win, right? In an 82 game season, you're going to have these nights where it's just like, that was a bad loss, or that was, you know what, we lost, but they played pretty well. This where we're at right now, it's just because you could look across and be, the Clippers fans are understandably like, oh, congratulations, you won by 3 when we were without Kawhi and Paul George and Reggie Jackson. But if you're the Nuggets, you're just like, look, man, we were out 3 starters and a key rotation piece. Our pets' heads have been falling off all year.
This might be the first game, though, where Denver had better injury luck than their opponent. I think this is the first one.
I agree.
There have been teams that have been banged up, but the Clippers were actually more banged up than Denver is when you factor in who they were missing. They didn't have a single one of their top players.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. This is Ivica Zubac slander, but that's okay. I did think, by the way, I thought Zoo played well tonight. 7 of 8 from the field, 17 points, 11 boards. I thought Zoo played pretty well. Jokic did his thing, but can we start with Jokic? Because I don't really know what to make of this. He shoots 9 of 24, but he has 26, 22, and 8, which is just like massive production. He has 2 steals and 2 blocks. He has 4 turnovers. He was a minus 17 at one point. He finishes a minus 7 because he was part of like the run that put the game away. Ultimately, I ask you, Jokic Whisperer, what do you think of Jokic's night tonight?
Oh man, somebody just pointed out Philadelphia. Yeah, I think they're right. Denver wasn't as banged up as Philly, so you're right about that one. I thought Jokic was good. I mean, he's in a funk. There's no question about it that he's missing more bunnies, and just not even bunnies, just shots that he usually makes. Some of which are bunnies, but some of which are like, for most players, you would say, okay, sometimes you go cold. It's just Jokic never goes cold from little like 6-foot floaters, 5-foot floater. He never goes cold, and he's been a little bit cold lately. So he didn't shoot the ball very well. But what I think about Jokic is he's looked really frustrated. He's looked really, and it looks like that frustration has been bothering him. And I thought even this game, especially in that first half, there were times where I'm thinking like, Jokic's going to get a tech at some point in this game. He's going to do something. He's out of rhythm. He's out of whatever. But when he came in the fourth quarter, he played, I think, great basketball the final 10 minutes and 34 seconds.
It kind of does show you like this is really the bar. Don't be so bad that Jokic is not completely just like befuddled, lost, and downtrodden when he comes back in. If you're just within range and Malone puts him back in, if both of those things happen, like he can close. Like there was a Clippers fan that said that tonight on Twitter. He was like, they had their closer and we did not. And that's,
of course. I mean, yeah, for sure.
And that's what that's the thing. Like it came down to like Brandon Boston trying to shake Davon Reed, who we'll talk about. I want to give Davon his own segment. Can we give him his own segment in a second?
Sure. I see somebody was up Corey. By the way, this is great. We've been telling people we do this live late into the night. I know it's not a lot of people are asleep here in Colorado, but it is great to see a lively chat going on. It makes the podcasting a lot more fun. But you are right about the closing thing. Is I have a professional gambling buddy. A lot of people know Big T. He's been on the show before. Tony from Rum Pure Sports. He always says the only quarter that matters is the fourth quarter in the NBA. And he's like, no, I'm serious. He's like, it doesn't matter. Like teams are up, teams are down, whatever. It's just how does a team close the game? And the more I watch, the more I'm like, yeah, that is true. It is just come down to like, if you're within 7 points heading into the fourth, now it's like, okay, which team is better? And tonight, yeah, one team had Jokic, the other one didn't. And they come back from being down. What were they down? Was it 7 points or 8 points when he checked in with 10 minutes to go?
I think so.
Something like that.
Well, I think, it was, Jokic helped close the game. They had a lot of heroes in this game. I will say, as much as this is kind of like a meh, like everyone's just kind of meh. I think it's about expectations. You're right. I don't expect like inspiring, like, oh man, the Nuggets are just playing great basketball and they're a joy to watch right now.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Honestly, a lot of it is just like it's the compound. So in NFL gambling, there's a discussion a lot of cluster injuries, where if you have like the Ravens right now have cluster injuries in their secondary, which is why like Joe Burrow just like threw all over them today because all of their secondaries hurt. And with the Nuggets or with the NBA, honestly, a lot of it is like, do you have cluster injuries in your units? And the Nuggets have a cluster injury in their starters. Yeah. Jamal Murray, MPJ, and Aaron Gordon. That's 3 of what we refer to as the big 4.
Right.
And that's just like, that's a lot. So it's going to be scrappy and it's going to be kind of ugly. But like to me, I actually kind of walked away being, I'll say this, I was kind of impressed because I did not expect the Nuggets to roll this team. I may have bet Clippers +4 and cashed on this particular game because I thought that the Clippers would actually be able to hang even without all those guys, because the Clippers, honestly, they're a deep team with a lot of veterans that know how to play, and they have continuity. They know how to play together. Like that's the other thing is like the Nuggets
have a very good coach too. I think Ty Lue gave him a really good chance to win. One of the things I'm worried about, Matt, is that the Nuggets are just super solvable right now with the players they have, and I do feel like some teams are starting to pack the paint on them a little bit, really try to force the ball out of Jokic's hands, or at least like force him into tough spots. And you see them when they go cold. When Denver starts to slide, it just compounds, it feels.
So it was 86-82 when Jokic came back into the game, but a few minutes it was 82-101. It was 82-91. So it was ultimately they were down by 9 like a few minutes after Jokic came in the game, and then they stormed back and took and got the win.
Yeah. And I thought he was really good, even on defense. And one of the problems with Jokic has been in a rut, but his defense has also been in a rut lately. And I think some of this is just conserving energy. But tonight totally looked like a conserve energy on defense for 3 quarters. And then the fourth quarter, I thought he did a great job defensively.
Yeah, he just locked down. He was great. Let's take a break, and then when we come back, it's a new day, Vaughn. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I need to tell you about TrueBill. You know why free trials renew without your consent? See, if you're watching live on YouTube, you don't get to just skip past me now. It's a business scam to get you. That's why you can't get out of those free trials. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download TrueBill to take control of your subscriptions. TrueBill is a new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with TrueBill. Because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, TrueBill makes it incredibly simple. Just link your accounts, and TrueBill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in just one tap. And your TrueBill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. TrueBill's got over 2 million users and helped save them over $100 million. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now, TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands a year. TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On Now podcast. Nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. Listen to Locked On Now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch it on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. Speaking of which, if you're listening to this, that means that you're catching it later after we've recorded. Right now, we're getting comments like one from Nemanja that says that he might be addicted to the Nuggets. He says he doesn't want to watch them after the Charlotte loss, and yet he's still watching them. And he's on our show as well. Our show goes live every night now on YouTube. That's when we record it. You can be part of the show, talk. We'll respond to some of the comments. It's a good time. Catch us on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe and like button on YouTube. It's the best way for you to support the show, as well as giving us those 5-star reviews. All right, Adam. You said you wanted to see more Davon Reed, that you liked the way that he played. You said you were excited to have him back because you think that he is really good and fits the team. And tonight, Davon Reed saved the day. He was absolutely pivotal, honestly, in keeping the Nuggets in this game when things started to get out of hand early. Defense, offense, the whole shebang. I'm just going to let you wax poetic on Davon Reed's contributions tonight.
I mean, I definitely wasn't the only person that was impressed with Davon Reed, early on. So I don't know that I get a claim like mayor of Davon Reed Island here, but I do like the way he plays in a couple important ways. One, he can do a lot of things. He's not usually, like, if you're a bench player or a role player, you specialize in something. What is his best skill? I don't know that it's immediately obvious. Like you'd say, oh, he's a shooter or he's a rebounder. He's pretty good at a lot of things.
He's just an NBA player.
He's just an NBA player. And I think the number one thing that I like about him is he's almost always within his lane. And I just think that's so valuable, especially when you're shorthanded. I'll say this. I thought he was great tonight. I think he's going to be great the more he gets to play, especially the more he gets to play with and alongside Nikola Jokic, because I think he's a good Jokic player. But I don't think he's like, I don't want people to think I'm overstating this. I don't think he's a star. I don't think he's like he's going to, everybody's healthy. He's playing a bunch of minutes and locking down Steph Curry. And I'm like, he's not that good. I just think like right now, he's definitely a player that should be getting minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's how I would say that I feel he's able to make a serious contribution. Like there's always these guys, because part of it was Torrey Craig gave them a lot in the minutes that he gave them, but a lot of it was that Torrey was very specialized. There were certain
that's what I was going to say. That's the difference.
Yeah, like he could play, he could do very certain things. And when the shot went down, it was a huge swing. Versus with Reed, it just feels like, no, Davon Reed, like it does not feel crazy that Davon Reed can just go out and hit 3 or 4 from 3. Like that does not seem wild. Like he shot 40% at Miami. Like,
yeah, as long as you're not counting on those points, that's the thing. Like, ideally, you would have like one player sort of step up in that tier. You know, maybe it's a Monte, maybe it's a Facu, maybe it's a J Mike, like whoever these guys, like one of them steps up and kind of runs hot, and that's good enough. Tonight it was Davon Reed. I don't want people to think he's a 40% 3-point shooter at the NBA level, because I don't think he is.
You don't? Okay.
No, but I think he could be like a 36, 37 and never take shots he's not supposed to kind of guy, which is good.
Right. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. Like I said, like I'm not. I didn't mean to try and like point this as like you saying like he's like, a future star. I more just meant that you really felt that he wasn't just like, oh, he had some games. Like he's actually seriously like very helpful for the team, and he fits.
I think he's very helpful. I think he's very helpful for the team.
Look, and a lot of this is just like Davon Reed's the kind of guy that when I looked at their bench in the offseason, this was like my concern is I was just like, and early on it kept being apparent. The two things I thought were missing was like they just needed like more NBA guys, just like all around guys that are tall and athletic, that can do some things and can shoot. Just normal stuff that you see on all these rosters throughout the league. You don't have to be spectacular. You just have to be a solid guy. Like when they are fully healthy, I don't know what that looks like or when that's going to happen. But the idea of having like a Monte Morris, Davon Reed, and then you sign like literally any NBA center, and I'm just like, oh, then this team is back to winning like 55 games, because that like the starters are superb and they just need solid bench guys.
He's definitely a guy that I think could play when everybody is healthy. That's what's interesting, is he is a guy that I think fills in the gap. So like, for example, if I gave you a roster that was Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Jokic, and then Davon Reed was a part of it, like for whoever fill out the rest of the roster, Michael Porter or Jeff Green or whatever, but Davon Reed is there, I'm like, yeah, that works. Sometimes you need a guy who's only expected to take 3 or 4 shots per game. And I think he could be that guy. So I like him. When you talk about role players, he's definitely fits the bill, like a Kenrich Williams, even like a PJ Dozier, of guys I like because they can do a lot of different things and usually stay in the lane. PJ Dozier, one of his biggest weaknesses, in my opinion, was he didn't always stay in the lane. Like he wasn't actually elite at that.
What did you feel like he got out of lane on? Just like ISOing?
Who's that? PJ Dozier?
Yeah.
I think he was mostly in his lane. There were times where he would take shots that were, I'm like, that you just got it. To me, I'm so particular about this, because to me, I don't understand when guys don't understand what shots they shouldn't take. Sometimes there's shots that are on the line. Dozier sometimes would take like driving baseline fallaways with 15 seconds on the clock, and it's just like, you never get to take that one. Just that's a shot you never get to take, and he did it. It wasn't too often. I'm a big Dozier guy. Everybody knows that, but he was a guy that just once every 3 or 4 games would just have a run where I'm like, whoa, bro, what's going on here, man? That's not your job.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of that was that it wasn't just – I feel like so much of it was that he was a wing, and so he felt like he needed to space the floor. Like there was a lot where I really just wanted to see him, again, just run pick and roll. Just run pick and roll. They drop. You attack the basket. You're tall. You're athletic. Like – make a read, like simple stuff. And instead I felt like I do think some of that was that they were transitioning him to like a small forward, which I just don't love for him overall. Okay. Do you want more on Reed? Because I thought, by the way, the final possession where he locked up, I mean, it's Brandon Boston, but he locked him up. It was also
he
weird
did a very
game.
good job. But that's what I mean. He did a lot of things. What's that?
They talked. Ty said that the final play, they want to get Luke Kennard coming over the top, and they locked him. And I was like, I went back and watched, and I was like, he just stood there.
When you watch that play, it looked like the decision had been made by Boston exactly what he was going to do. So to me, that looked like a young player who had been dreaming his whole life for that exact moment, and then it went differently than he planned. But credit to Davon Reed, who did a very good job of making it difficult on him, staying with him. He's got a 7-foot wingspan, Matt. Wingspan is so important. He's 6'5", but 7-foot wingspan. He gets to be able to guard like that and have an impact.
Yeah. Again, it just feels like he's so solid. There's just nothing that
He is
stands out about
very
him
solid.
where, I mean, you look at just so many of the reserve guys. The starters really are when they're even when it's Monte and Austin tonight. Like Monte, if Gordon was playing, right? If it's like Monte, Austin, Gordon, Jokic, Barton, right? I still look at those and it's like, okay, they're all like, these guys all have the overall skills and size and everything. Versus like I look at the bench unit and it's like JaMychal Green is just having to play all the time, no matter the matchup, as a center. Like not just like a small ball center, but like he's gonna battle down low versus dudes. Like if it's a staggered bench rotation versus the Wolves and Karl Anthony Towns comes in, well, guess what? Like JaMychal Green's guarding Karl Anthony Towns, and you've got small guards trying to guard bigger guards. Like it's just they don't have a lot of like all around, and that's one of the things is Davon Reed really does hit all of those marks in terms of there's like never a situation in which he's wildly outmatched. He may be out talented. There's guys that are better than him. He's not like elite, but he's not going to be outmatched or like a glaring weakness in any of these regards. And that's huge for them.
Yeah. I like him, man. I like him. I hope he sticks. He's only got one more game before I think his 10 days are up. And I'm very curious to see what the Nuggets do with him.
Let's hit another break and then we can come back on the other side and we can hit everybody else and coaching and all that. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to take a break. We'll come back and we'll hit the rest of this game and some other storylines going on right now in the NBA. But first, I need to tell you about Built Bar. That's right. It's Built Bar time. Okay. New Year's around the corner. You're going to want to be trying to get yourself in good condition. You want to be changing your habits. You want to be eating healthy. And if you want to do that,
that's me, man. That's definitely me. I got to up my Built Bars starting in January 1st.
But you don't want to give up on taste. You definitely want to get Built Bar with 100% chocolate on the outside. They're low in calories. They're low in sugar. They're low in net carbs. They're low in fat, and they're high in protein. So many flavors. You're going to have a hard time choosing. You're going to have raspberry or mint brownie, cherry. My favorite's double chocolate. Love that one. Just simple double chocolate. That's my favorite. Cookies and cream or peanut butter brownie. They give you that extra fuel that you need to get your New Year's started right. You want to cozy up with something warm when it gets cold outside? Dip your Built Bar in hot cocoa. It makes for a delicious treat. And if you want some of those marshmallowy treats, but you don't want to feel guilty about it, get your hands on the Built Bar Puffs. They're light, fluffy, and marshmallowy through and through. Different flavors, all covered in chocolate. Tastes so good, you won't believe that they're filled with protein. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your first order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for making this part of your day. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free, and it's available on all platforms. Back here with Adam Mares. All right, Adam, lots of comments in the chat tonight on our YouTube channel, which you guys should go and subscribe and like to and set notifications for, and you could be part of the show. And we'll get to some of those comments at the end of the show. I think we're going to have to start doing that, Adam. Like the third segment may have to start becoming a reader comment.
That'd be fun, man. That'd be a lot of fun.
So other perceptions tonight. Austin Rivers, I thought, played great. He's looked really good since he came back, honestly, from the COVID thing. It's weird because he said that he wasn't feeling good, like it was rough on him, but he's played really great. I think
you missed an important detail, though. He did say when he came, he did say that time allowed him a lot of important reflection and that he felt like he had a better perspective. And he's been even tweeting a bunch of stuff about, about it. Energy is everything or what have you. So I'm actually not too surprised that he's looked good since coming back.
12 points, 4 of 8 shooting, 4 threes tonight. Big deal. The Nuggets got they had 15 threes to just 8 for the Clippers. If the Clippers hit 8 threes, they're doomed. Like before Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and Reggie Jackson, if they only hit 8 threes, the Clippers are doomed. Yeah. Actually, by the way, a really good job tonight, all things considered, by the Nuggets, allowing only 26 3-point attempts for the Clippers is actually a really big deal. But Rivers, 4 of 6 from 3, 4 assists, 3 boards, and a +5 to go with 12 points. I thought he was great tonight.
Yeah, he was really good. I like how he's playing. It was an interesting starting lineup tonight, by the way, with him in it. You know, Michael Malone elected not to start Vlatko Čančar as he did last game, which would mean to go big. Aaron Gordon missing the second game in a row, and instead put Austin Rivers in there, which is small. So kind of an interesting strategy choice from Michael Malone.
What'd you think of it?
Of the strategy decision? I mean, it worked out. Well, it's funny. It worked out, but they didn't really play well to start the game. So it didn't work out necessarily because of that. But I don't know. Austin Rivers is good. I am curious to see Gordon. It's funny. Everybody knows I do that show with George Karl, Keeping It 1000 podcast with DNVR. It's on the DNVR Nuggets feed. We were talking. He always thought that Gordon and Jeff Green, who I like a lot, is sort of abnormally large for Denver. I don't know if I agree with that. But it is interesting to see the Nuggets going smaller, trying to get something more interesting going. It didn't work tonight, but I'm sure we'll see it a little bit more. I'm not sure Gordon will even be back for this next game. We'll find out.
Yeah. I do think that Gordon being healthy is important for this team. Like when he was playing well, they had played well. I think that was maybe a reason for that really terrible pair of games versus OKC and Charlotte, was that Gordon just wasn't himself. I think that was a large part of that equation.
He's the second most important player. I think very comfortably.
Will was interesting tonight. So, okay, he only goes 2 of 9. He has 17 points on 18 shots. That's bad. That's bad. No, there's no getting around it. That he made a really tough bucket late. He missed a 3 off of the dribble handoff action. I couldn't tell if Jokic was annoyed or not at that one. He was wide open off of the drop, so I didn't blame him for shooting it. But he did make a really tough and-one late in that game. I actually, much like the last game where you felt like you saw some good things, I actually kind of liked what I saw from Will tonight. He looked better to me, even if the shot wasn't there.
It was a mixed bag. I do think he looked better in this previous one. He didn't really have that many great spots, but in this one, he did have some good spots. He had some really bad spots in ways that are bad, that are frustrating. You know, he made a shot early in that fourth and then took like 3 in a row after that and missed them. And it's like, okay, like you don't have to heat check after one, but he also had some important shots, some more important plays, and was a big part of why they won tonight. So up and down, very mixed to me. He gets like A's and F's.
15 minutes from Vlatko tonight. I actually think they probably could have done with a little bit more Vlatko. I thought that he was like, he just continues to be pretty solid. I have no complaints about Vlatko's play tonight.
No complaints. What's interesting is Zeke Naji did not play at all tonight. And so Vlatko gets 15 minutes. Zeke Naji completely cut out of the rotation, at least for tonight. And presumably that probably means he has to wait for another opportunity. I thought, and I think I said this a couple weeks ago, that after the New York Knicks game, that was probably he's probably received his last DNP CD of the year. He did not play coach's decision. That lasted, I think, 6 games. And by the way, that's not a complaint. Like rightfully so. Zeke is given a lot of chances and just has not looked very good lately.
Yeah, at least this isn't one of those where it was like with MPJ, right? Where he would have like 15 points in 7 minutes. Right. And then next game he doesn't play at all. This was very clearly like, okay, Zeke's in the rotation. And Zeke has missed 18 straight threes. Okay.
He had that one game of like 18 minutes without a rebound or something. And it's like, I'm sure like those are really damning.
Yeah. Bones Highland, 3 of 10 tonight. Where are you at with Bones right now?
It's tough because I mean he wasn't good tonight. His season has gone like this. Looks fantastic, rolls his ankles, looks bad, then is completely out. Then he comes back, looks great, rolls his ankle, he looks bad again. So I don't know if, to me, it sure looks like you can connect those dots and say, oh, this is what's happening. But but maybe it's not that. I mean, he's playing, but he didn't look good tonight. He hasn't looked good really since rolling his ankle.
That's probably the simplest and like Occam's razor approach. I think that's pretty smart, just in terms of just boiling it down to that. I will say that some of his shot selection sometimes does feel like he's trying to have a monster game all the time.
See, I honestly don't think this with the second unit. that second unit, they are really not good as they're banged up right now. And I think a lot of guys in that second unit, you look and you go, what's the shot selection? But I think when you go back and rewatch, you're going to see a lot of possessions where it's like this team can't get into the paint.
Yeah.
They don't have any pressure on the rim. They don't have this, that. And you just end up getting bad shot. And Bones is a part of it. Like, I would rather Bones take bad. This is what it is. There's no good options. I'd rather Bones take the shots he did in that first stint than Facu take the shots he took in the second stint.
Yeah.
They're the same shots, though.
That's a fair point. Nemanja, can Bones shoot from mid-range? Yes, he's awesome. He's really good from there. He just needs to be actually have a pick, I think, to get into that space.
It's not just that, though. There's another layer to this, Matt. He has a slow shot.
Yeah,
that's true. Slow shot, and I think that's part of why he doesn't get that shot off very often.
Can I reclassify kind of what I was saying? My implication wasn't he took bad shots outside of the rhythm of a good offense, because like you're right? Like it's better for him to do that. I think it's more that because that unit, like I think he would be really great if he was part of a normal second unit. Just like a normal, typical, like you throw him on the Hawks, looks normal. The Knicks, I think he looks really great and people are excited. Like it's really a matter, I think, that he's asked to be spectacular, because like really there was a point in the season where we were like, okay, something's got to save the bench. I guess it's got to be Bones.
Right.
And the reality is like he, as a 26 pick, he is not consistent enough yet for him to do that.
I think he's a ways away from being consistent. I mean,
and
we talk about it's not like end of the year he'll be there or whatever. But I do want to give a little bit of space, because that second unit, I know they had a really good first stint, and some of this was just that the Clippers they're really banged up, and some of the combos they threw out were even worse than what Denver had. But I just think that second unit, it's so hard for me to be too hard on any one individual player, because I look at it and I go, they can go 5 minutes where they fall out of rhythm and none of the shots they get are good. And so whoever takes them happens to look really bad, but it's all 5 of them. I grade all 5 of them the same. I don't say like, oh, this guy was really off tonight. Bones really couldn't get anything going. It's like that unit couldn't get anything going.
It's possible I missed something. JaMychal Green ended up with a +10. I thought it was mostly because he was on
the floor. That too. I saw that
he was on the floor when the Clippers went cold. I didn't see anything. Like JaMychal wasn't as terrible as I think he has been, but I wouldn't point at this and be like, this is a good JaMychal Green.
The only plays I can remember from the game for JaMychal were bad ones. So yeah, like he had the drop off where he fumbles the ball, gathers it, then gets it stripped. Like he just had a couple plays that were like buckets that turned into not buckets for this or that. But like you said, he was a team high +10. So who knows?
Only 2 other guys we had left. Monte had a bad shooting night, like Will did. 12 points.
He's in a slump.
12 points on 14 shots.
He's in a mini slump.
Did have 5 and 5. So there was that numbers were good. But again, a lot of this is like the guys that were on the floor when the Clippers had their offense basically go into the ocean, fall beneath the ocean floor into the molten core of the earth. Their numbers are going to look pretty good. Like the Clippers just were short on offensive talent. Like they had the problem the Nuggets have a lot of time, which is, oh no, Paul George is not on the floor. We can't create anything.
Right.
So that's part of that. I'm just going to give you the floor. Like thoughts on Facu tonight. I'm not going to comment, but just like whatever your thoughts are.
He was bad. I mean, he had the one really big hustle play. He was part of that. And I think it was part of why that first unit was playing so well, is they just had a really good energy to him. But he was not good. I mean, he missed all of his shots. Like I said, him and Bones to me took a lot of bad shots, but I don't blame them for it. Like, I don't think either of those guys were hunting shots. I just think that unit was so bad that it's like, what can you get out of it? So this was a bad Facu game.
The Clippers got 18 from Eric Bledsoe and 10 from Ibaka and 18 from Boston and 17 from Zubac, and they lost this game. It's really kind of weird.
Jokic had the worst plus-minus on the team tonight, which is just crazy.
That is really wild. Starters had trouble there, especially first 2 stints. You mentioned this kind of before we came on, that it's just like a relief game, but it is like it's good. Like the losing streak's not going to be extended because they're gonna get waxed on Tuesday.
It was so important to get a win, man. It was so important. Oh, by the way, I don't know if they'll get waxed Tuesday. They probably will. I don't know if Draymond's out, that does change the complexion of that roster quite a bit.
True. And
they probably still lose. I mean, they almost lost to Brandon Boston tonight, but we'll see.
And Poole and Wiggins and
Iguodala. Yeah. So like they're short. They might be really short as well.
Yeah.
The NBA, baby.
You're so annoyed with this season. I feel so bad for you. So Andrew asked a while ago, are there any anecdotes that you guys can share that sum up how Bol Bol messed up his opportunity this season? I don't understand how a person doesn't get it. I think Bol continues to be this topic of conversation, and I think part of it is the understanding when you cover a team of how there are just certain things that whether it's fair or not, this is the way it is. And he might get, like I've said this, like he might get another chance somewhere else and become the player, and then everyone's going to be mad, even though the Nuggets have hit on Jokic and Murray and MPJ when he was healthy, and Davon Reed and Torrey Craig and Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt.
Like, I don't think this is going to happen with Bol. I'm not that concerned about Bol going.
But that's like the lingering. That's the lingering concern I think from fans, is that he's going to go somewhere else and be like, "I told you he was good."
I would be really shocked by that. I mean, he's really talented, but I would say if he pans out, it would be more of a like his third or fourth team is where it pans out. I think here's my read on Bol from talking to people, everything I see. I don't know that in this league it's so tough. You can be the 400th best player in the entire world and not get any minutes, because you got to actually be like the top 200th player in the world to make it. So you be the 250th best player in the world and you might not make it in this league. And I think, in my opinion, when you're not one of the like 25, 30 best players in the world, you have to have this self-awareness that, okay, this, whatever it takes to get on the court, I will do whatever this or that. And I just don't know. It doesn't sound like Bol had that approach, and that's the approach that he needed. I think he had more of the approach of, I'm being wronged and wait till I show them. And it's like, it doesn't work for you that way unless you're LeBron or, unless you're a can't miss prospect.
I think if you want the anecdote, it's just that he gave up on that play. That's like, that encapsulates everything. You can't be an end of the bench guy and think that you're too good. Bradley Beal can give up on any play he wants.
I don't even know if that encapsulates it. I think that encapsulates a part of it, but I think there's other parts to it.
I think probably the best anecdotes are behind closed doors in practice, which we don't get to see.
Yeah, some of them we do know though.
Like what?
But there's also parts of that.
Do you have one?
Was the team surprised he participated in summer league because he didn't let them know ahead of time? Sort of things of that nature.
Josh, who cares if he's good with someone else? He can't even crack a rotation with a completely depleted roster. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is the question is like, do you think he should crack the roster if the roster is this depleted, or is it he's so bad he can't even crack this roster that tells you where he's at? And that really is like a question of, where you're at with Malone too. I think Malone, somebody mentioned that he's been in the slump. I think that's accurate. I think Malone had in 2018, he figured some stuff out. In 2019, he was terrific. In 2020, I think it was like a B year for him. 21 last year, honestly, I thought that he did a really great job of not freaking out and losing it with everything that was going on. It just caught up to him this year. This has been like just a really rough season for him. I think it's okay for like, if you do go back and you look at coaches that have long tenures, which there aren't that many. Like that's one of the things I was thinking about. I was like, God, Malone's really been around. Like this is like, he's going into like 6 years. Like this is a long time. I do think if you go back and you look at like Rick Carlisle or I'm trying not to like throw out Pop, but like, Spoelstra even. There are years where like the coaches just didn't do a great job. Like great coaches can have years where they didn't do a great job. And you can definitely argue that Malone's not on the level of the great coaches. Like nobody puts him there, which I think is interesting considering what they've accomplished. But I do think that like he's having a rough season. It's just always felt like the looming thing really for the last 4 years has been, well, eventually Malone's going to have a down year and then he's going to be gone. That's always been that's how I've always kind of read it. Have you read it that way?
I think, honestly, I just read it this way. It's really hard for a coach not to come off as stale after a certain amount of time. And I think Malone has done a good job of not being stale. But this season, everything feels stale. Like maybe it's inevitable that, like, we mentioned the other day, he's pushing some of the wrong buttons lately, and I still believe that. Like, we're 2 games past the starters getting benched. Guess what? The starters still have not been good. They've been negatives now 2 games in a row. So, like, whatever it is. But the thing is that I think the team is this is such an annoying season for everyone. Like, everybody's nerves are low, that maybe it's an inevitability that it's the wrong buttons will be pushed. I don't know.
Corey comments, Malone had a very different vision for how this season will be going. That is very well put, Corey.
Honestly, maybe I disagree. I think Malone knew this. He said this and he said this all along. He kept referencing 20 games, and now we're 30 games into this or whatever. But he kept saying, like, the first 20 games, I knew they were like, at 20 games, they were like 9-11 or 10-10. And he's like, yeah, that's what I expected. Like, I just looked at the schedule. I knew all we're up against. I knew this was not going to be one. So I wonder if part of this is he knew he was in for a year where it's going to just be frustrating the whole way through.
David Walker, does the poor defense, particularly perimeter defense, of late concern you in the big picture sense? It does me. If you're looking for how this team is going to find the ways to get themselves into a 4 seed, right? Because, like, that's, I think, the goal right now. It's still doable. Which is amazing, by the way, considering what their record is. It's amazing that the 4 seed is still on the table. But if they're going to get there, they can't just blow past teams. You can make the argument that they should be playing a more freestyle, or the offense should have more complexity to it, or this, that, and the other. And you can be right, but they could also just, like, blow past teams with 120 points a night if they're fully loaded and healthy. But they're not. They don't have the weaponry. They just don't. And so, like, I don't know how, like, I don't think this team in particular, like, I came around to the idea that they didn't need to be a good defensive team in the regular season. I came around on that because I was like, you know what? They figure out the answers in the playoffs. So who cares? Like, that's where I'm at with most teams, is like, you can get through the regular season just blowing past teams with offense. They just don't have the firepower. They just don't have the talent.
I think that's what it is. It's the firepower. Like, Jokic is so clearly not putting full effort into 48 minutes of defense, and you can't blame him for it. And lately, Denver's perimeter containment, this has been a problem for years, but this year they started first 10 games. I thought they were, like, elite at it. It's slowly tailed off to where guys are just living in the paint now, like, getting around. And I think Jokic is just like, yeah, I'm not playing defense this quarter, second, third quarter. Yeah, I'm not like, what am I going to do?
You were worried about the exhaustion mentally, emotionally, all that catching up with him, and it's caught up with him.
Yeah. So you ask, like, can they get their defense rolling? Honestly, these things are all connected. This is not like they need to refocus on defense. They can refocus on defense if Jokic has a trust in other guys to help them on offense.
2 more and we'll go. Corey, do you guys feel like Facu, Vlatko, and Reed bring energy that the starters lack? The starters are so flat. So first off, I would say that one of the reasons that this happens is, like, Facu, I think, that definitely brings that energy. Like, that everyone just goes
every
crazy.
Every night.
No matter what he does, like, the bench and like, everyone's super excited whenever Facu does anything. With Davon, I think it is like, this guy's getting an opportunity and we're all rooting for him because he's not on, like, he doesn't have a guaranteed contract.
He brings energy too. And I don't know if that's because he's on 10 days and, like, every game he plays right now is the most important game of his life. So it's like the energy is expected, but he does bring it. I'm so curious to see if he sustains that. But he brings it.
With AG out and Will seemingly still recovering, the starting unit isn't tailored defensively to Jokic. I think that's fair. I think you need a lot of size. That's one of it. Like, we've seen the defense improve when he's surrounded by a lot of athleticism, and they're short on it.
Will's the big part of it. I mean, tonight I said he had up and down. We always think about offensively, but still defensively, man, there's just these plays where he has to rotate and sprint, and you see his like lateral sprint right now is so slow.
But hey, it was a good win, and here's a little bit more of good news. Andrew does comment on the way out. If it at least gives Nug Life some solace, seeing the Lakers in an equal, if not far worse spot. I have held the line, Adam, and been like, you know what? It takes a while to get used to Russ, and they've had, like, they didn't have Ellington or Ariza, and, like, the guys have been in and out, and LeBron was that Christmas Day game is now. I'm
really?
Like, that's when I'm like,
wow,
you lost to Harden.
Yeah.
And, like, the Nets, like, it was Harden and Patty Mills. And I love
Patty Mills is good, man. Patty Mills having a career year.
I love Patty Mills. Okay, I knew that was a great signing for him. I was caving for him for 6-man last year. You can't get your ass kicked on national TV by James Harden, Patty Mills, and a bunch of dudes.
This is the thing that's pulling you around, is that I would grade LeBron's last 5 games as like A-, like pretty good. It hasn't mattered. Not in that they didn't win, but in that like the fourth quarters haven't mattered. He said, what is he? Let's look at his lines. 39 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. They get destroyed. It doesn't matter. 36 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists the game before. They lose by 28. 34, 7, and 2. They lose by 18. Like, he's putting up great numbers. And they're not just losing narrowly. They're getting destroyed.
Yeah. So now I'm getting shook. Now I'm like, oh, okay. This may just be over for them.
Here's the problem though, Matt, because I'm with you. This Lakers team sucks. They in a normal year, like in an average of the last 20 years, an average Western Conference year, they would be so far down the standings that it's like, hey man, this team's not recovering. LeBron's about to have a mystery illness and be out or injury or something. But instead, they're somehow basically tied with Denver. They're the 7 seed. The Mavericks aren't going to overtake them. The Timberwolves aren't going to overtake them. The Spurs might be the most likely team below them to overtake them. The Spurs suddenly surging. So I just look at it and I go, they could be in this rut for another 6 weeks and still avoid the play-in even.
I don't know if we need to put on Locked On Nuggets. I need to get you in some sort of audio space if they trade Russell Westbrook for Ben Simmons, just so you can just like, I need it. I need to experience your just rage, frustration, and despair. Like
they would be such an unwatchable team with Ben Simmons, but they would be so much better. I mean, that at least they're going to lock teams up, and they'll grind out 85 to 82 wins.
I'll tell you this. Look, I'm a Grizzlies guy, and they got a win over the Kings tonight. They were down at the half and just like obliterated them in the third quarter. And Alvin Gentry called it the most embarrassing loss of his long NBA career. Like,
don't love that.
Like the Grizzlies right now are 20-14. Okay, they have a full 3-game lead on Denver. I'm just telling you that like I don't have confidence in Denver and Memphis holding on to the 4.
You don't. I mean, it's so early. At these things, they're only up 3 games on Denver right now, who's 6. So, I mean, you're definitely objectively right about
it's less a matter of like it could happen and more of me being like, I do not think Memphis is as good as their 20-14 record.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
They're 9-5 versus teams. They're 9-5 versus teams 500 and above, and 11-9 versus teams below 500. They've got 9 losses already to sub 500 teams.
Wow.
That's bad. For comparison, Denver's high at 11-6. You want to try and get out of the season with fewer than 10 losses to teams under 500 in the West. That's historically been the mark. It's a little bit different this year. I'm willing to go to like 13, but you want to try and keep it under 13, and it's tough, I think. So they're really inconsistent, and that can bite you over the course of the season.
I honestly think the most realistic, best case scenario for Denver right now is to be in that 4-5 against Memphis. And then especially if Utah or Golden State is the number 1 seed. I mean, Golden State's really good. Both of those teams would probably beat Denver this year. But the one thing about Golden State, and we'll find this out in the next game, Jokic is enormous. They'd have to play Kevon Looney a lot of minutes, I think. Maybe even, I mean, that's the one thing you could look at is say, hey, do they have no one for Jokic? Okay, let's start there. That's really good.
We're going long, but I did want to. I think you're right that the 4-5 is a matchup. I want to ask you though, the next game. How do the Nuggets not like? Do you just not put Jokic on the plane for the next game?
Oh, don't bring this up, Matt. Don't bring this up. I'm not commenting on this.
Okay.
I'm not superstitious. Or actually, I guess I am, because I was going to say I'm not commenting on this.
You're not superstitious, but you're a little stitious.
I'm a little stitious.
Okay, we're not going to talk about where the Nuggets are playing.
We're not going to talk about it tomorrow either. We're just not talking about that. Oh, let me just put it this way. I'm not comfortable.
I'm not comfortable. Yeah. All right, that's going to wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Thanks for all the chatters for joining us in the comments as well. If you want to join and be part of the show, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, turn on notifications, and you'll get them late at night when we are recording this show, which is from me, Matt Moore, and Adam Mares. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the 5-star reviews. I will continue to not comment on events of the National Football League as long as we keep getting those 5-star reviews. You have to keep getting them now.
The line, man.
You got to keep giving them. I want more 5-star reviews. This started out as like an incentive, and now it's a threat. If you start, if I see the 5-star stop coming in, I will go back to talking about the thing we're not talking about. Especially after today, I want to talk about it real bad. So, all right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure to have yourselves a great week and enjoy this weird holiday week. Week's always weird to me. It's like you're in the holidays, but kind of not, and some people work and some people don't. It's weird. But enjoy it no matter what, and we'll talk to you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.